So it's going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, live.
Is my audio live?
Yes.
Great, and welcome to the Seymour Leisure Centre public meeting. Perhaps if they could put me on camera, that'd be great. Thank you. Hopefully there are lots of you out there who've been able to join. We had over 180 people registered for this meeting, so it's fantastic to see such enthusiasm to be caught up with what's happening with the Seymour Leisure Centre. My name is Paul Swaddle. I'm the Cabinet Member responsible for corporate property and finance at Westminster, and overseeing the project for the Seymour Leisure Centre. Joined tonight by a number of other councillors, including Councillor Tim Barnes, who's the Cabinet Member responsible for libraries, and Councillor James Spencer, who is the Cabinet Member responsible for the leisure services. We're also joined by many of the local councillors from the Marylebone and Bryanston and Dorset Square area, and also our architects and also our officers who are helping prepare and run this project. So tonight we're going to be taking you through some details about where we've been on this project, the research that we've done last year, surveys done with many of yourselves giving feedback, and also the future plans for the leisure centre. There is a Q&A facility. You'll see it at the top of your screen or bottom, depending on which service you're using. But it's a little question mark with a little chat symbol. If you click on that, you can enter a question at any time during this presentation. For example, I can see that somebody anonymous has said, "Hi, is this starting?" We will get those questions through. We will be taking those questions at the end, but please feel free to ask the questions as you hear the items that are being talked about. Easier for you to remember that way, and then we can address them all at the end. So what I'd like to do is start off by passing over to Martin Crank from Westminster City Council. He's going to take you through some details of the engagement we did in the end of last year, in other words, only a few weeks ago, that was participated on by a wide range of residents and users of our services. So Martin, over to you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Swaddle. So just to give you a bit of background as to the engagement so far, and many of the people in the meeting may have been party to some of these meetings already. So in March 21, the council confirmed to stakeholders its commitment to take forward the Seymour Leisure Centre project and incorporate a new library and provide a better leisure centre for the local community. We then went out to local groups and updated them, updated you all that we had appointed Make Architects as primary consultants to take forward the design and shaping for the Seymour Leisure Centre project. And then we followed this up with another public meeting in July where over 70 people attended. So you can see interest is growing as we have over 180 people signed up for today's meeting. And in September last year, we launched an online consultation via MailChimp and through written surveys. And it was basically to gauge the opinion of not only users of the centre, but potential users of the centre to get their opinion on the existing facilities and also what facilities would encourage people to use the centre more. And the community survey had for those of you who completed it, had a number of different topics, multiple choice topics, in order to understand the aspirations for the Seymour Leisure Centre. And the survey themes included the reasons for using the Seymour Leisure Centre, the views on proposed improvements, views on how facilities should be used and the importance of them, and then demographic information. So we collated where people lived and what their frequency of using the centre was. And we promoted it through a number of different channels. So posters at the Seymour Leisure Centre, via email, social media, newsletters in the libraries, and targeted emails from the leisure and libraries teams, and then partner promotion via Marylebone Mums and Dads, the Marylebone Association, and the Marylebone Society. And what did that tell us? So the headlines are that 640 people responded to the questionnaire, which is a great response to a consultation of this type. 615 of those respondents also had a child who had or uses regularly the centre. 2/3 of the respondents were already regular centre users. And the majority of those respondents said they would use a library facility that was consolidated within the Seymour Centre. We also therefore needed to look at what would encourage non-users to visit the centre and what is the local need for leisure and library services in the area. And this told us a huge amount of things. First and foremost, for those people who have visited and who haven't visited, the swimming pool is a great community asset and is hugely appreciated by its regular users, which is generally committed swimmers and parents with children who swim regularly at the Seymour Leisure Centre. Swimmers requested enhanced swimming facilities. However, they were the most represented group in the survey. So their views were heard very loud and clear through the 640 people who responded. Respondents also asked for improved sports hall and fitness studio facilities to attract a diverse range of users. I think there was a feeling that the sports hall was in great demand and they're very sparse in the area, and people really appreciated the sports hall. However, from looking at local community data, there was a need to engage with neighbouring communities, for example, from the Church Street ward, where health data suggested that extra or enhanced health and wellbeing facilities would be greatly needed. So there was an indication that a sports hall, apart from being massively appreciated, was something that should be enhanced. In response to the questions about library facilities, the refurbishment project presents an opportunity to consolidate the library provision at Seymour Leisure Centre. The Marylebone Library was very well used, but it's only a temporary provision. And although the library services are welcomed in the Seymour Leisure Centre, a holistic community offer with a range of uses could be more attractive to the community. So does it provide study spaces or places for people to work? Not only were library facilities greatly welcomed, but libraries do a huge amount more than just be a place to rent books. And a family hub stroke community resource was very strongly welcomed. Another point that people raised was about mixed use spaces or flexible spaces. Now, currently the centre in its design has lots of rooms that could be used for dual purposes, and I think one of the aspirations that came through in the survey was that studios and breakout rooms could have dual purposes for physical activity, arts, health and well-being. There was a great demand for affordable mixed-use spaces, which local groups could use potentially for different activities, for not only physical education or fitness activities, they could be used for groups to meet. And this was kind of welcomed by respondents to the survey. And then the general points were that the changing facilities are in great need of modernisation. Both the management and cleanliness of the centre needs improvement. The soft play is regarded as an attractive offer by families and children. And a cafe is generally regarded as a nice to have, but the opportunity to purchase refreshments is welcomed. So all of this data and it was collated, and we handed, this is a big kind of a broad summary. All of the data was then collated and handed to our architectural team, and I'll hand you over to Catty, who will talk about what this data has been used to create the brief.
Thank you, Martin. So we have looked at the design principles for the centre itself. As Martin explained, we want to really reconfigure all the existing spaces to maximise the use of the building, to not only attract the existing users, but bringing new users to the building as well. We want to bring in the Marylebone Library and give it a permanent home within the building, and as part of that create this fantastic new family hub within the centre as well. The need and the demand for flexible community spaces is something that we are looking to incorporate within the facility, and I will show you some ideas for that and how that might work. And of course, we want to do a comprehensive improvement to all the existing facilities, both the leisure facilities and the changing facilities. So those are the design principles that we've taken forward into the design. If we can go to the next slide, please. Great. So the next slide, thank you. Obviously, as we all know, the existing building is very much primarily a leisure and fitness centre currently, hosting a variety of different leisure and fitness activities within the building. If we go to the next slide, our ambition for the building is really to create this fantastic new mixed-use building for the community that not only has an amazing leisure and fitness offer, but also has the library and all these community facilities for local groups and local clubs as well. And we want to make sure that the whole that we deliver is more than the sum of its parts, so that all these spaces are working together very effectively to give more than they would do as individual spaces. If we go to the next slide. As well as the use of the building, we want to bring other aspirations to the project, such as really thinking about how the building can deliver in a post-COVID world. How can it really enhance people's lives and how they work and they play, and how can it really deliver for the community need? An enhanced health and well-being offer is obviously at the heart of the building, as well as these flexible multifunctional spaces that we discussed, to create a real multi-service hub within the building. We want to respect the building's heritage. We want to open up parts of the building that are currently not really seen by most people, and I'll show you some of those in a moment, to really create an amazing new future for this amazing building. And of course, as part of that, we want to target net zero carbon, and that is things like upgrading all the plants, getting rid of the gas boilers, connecting into the green grid, making sure we have air source heat pumps, insulating the building so that we're not losing heat and cooling through the fabric of the building. So that will all help us to target net zero carbon. And of course, we want to make the building accessible for all abilities, for all ages. And we're looking at how we can integrate new lifts within the building to make the whole building accessible for everyone, which it currently obviously isn't. If we go to the next slide, please. As we said in our previous public meeting, we have now met with the planners and had an initial what's called a pre-application meeting, looking forwards to submitting planning in the future. Within this meeting, the planners were broadly very supportive of the scheme and of the changes we wanted to make, particularly making sure that the building will be fit for purpose for the community moving forwards for the next decades and centuries. We discussed the idea of the full mezzanine, and we were advised that this would be a non-starter from historic England's point of view. However, we have found other space within the volume of the building to deliver new space so that we can deliver all these fantastic aspirations that we have for the project. Next slide, please. We have started looking in a little bit more detail at how all the uses can work together. This is what a zoning or adjacency plan, as we call it. So we have looked to see what uses we can consolidate together, what uses need to be next to each other, what uses can share space because they're being used at different times of the day or the week, and looking at it both from the user's perspective, so from your perspective in terms of how you move through the building, but also making sure that that it works operationally and functionally. Next slide, please. This has given us an initial zoning diagram that looks something like this. So I'm just going to start talking a little bit about the ground floor, and then as the slides progress, we'll talk about the first floor and the lower ground floor. We see the ground floor as a very vibrant and active space within the building. It houses the forecourt sports hall as well as the swimming pool. We will be introducing a new learner and hydro pool as well. And it's really a space which is easily accessible, has access to all other parts of the building, and has its main entrance off Seymour Place, as it currently does. We are integrating, as I mentioned, all these flexibles. Yeah, it's fine, you can move forwards. Flexible spaces within the building. And what that actually means is rooms and spaces that we can design so they can be used for fitness studio classes, they can be used for children's classes, arts classes, music classes, they can be used by clubs as well as being bookable and hireable for local community groups. We really want to make sure that the building in its entirety, and particularly these spaces, are used all the way through the day and all the way through the week, because that makes sure that the building is used in a very sustainable way, but also means that the building is vibrant and has lots of people coming in and out of it at all times. Next slide, please. We also, as I mentioned, there's all these amazing spaces within the building, such as the public wash house, which you can just see photographs there, and it's highlighted in the red circle on the diagram. That most people who access the building are not aware of and don't use. We want to make sure that these spaces that are actually amazing are used by more people and are more bring more people into the building, and more people can use and see these spaces so that they can really experience the building as a whole. Next slide, please. And another one of these spaces is the balcony gallery. So historically, there was this amazing gallery space that overlooked the fantastic main hall. And this is currently used as a spin studio, but we want to bring it into use for the whole community, allowing more people from the community to be able to enjoy this building in the way that it was originally designed and envisaged. Next slide, please. We also want to think about how the building can address the street, what we call active frontages. So we're looking to put uses on the ground floor that can really address the street, such as the cafe, which might be something for families, particularly with children, as well as the library functions that could straddle the ground and first floors. That can really create a connection with the street, and opening up the building at that street level will hopefully draw more users into the building and kind of make the building more attractive to more people within the local community. Go to the next slide. We see the library and cafe space as a space for the future in terms of not thinking about the library, about how libraries used to be, but really thinking about libraries in a post-COVID world as places where people can gather, can congregate, groups can meet. It's not just space for individual study, and space where people maybe in a post-COVID world don't necessarily want to work or study at home or don't have the space to do so, allowing the library to serve for those kind of uses as well. The ground floor of the library we see is very vibrant, very busy, very attractive space to lots of people, and really it could be supported by this cafe facility as well. Next slide, please. At the Sholdham Street end of the building, we're creating a new family hub, which will be anchored by the Children's Library as well as by a new soft play area. That was something that came through quite strongly from the survey results, so that we can really create an amazing new family hub on the ground floor, easily accessible for children and for people with buggies, that's linked with the library and soft play. And you can see from these images, it can be an amazing new space within the building. Next slide, please. The second part of the library is the quieter part of the library, and we have located this on the first floor. This could be space for individual working, individual study, quiet reading, as well as where the books may be kept. This space on the first floor, historically, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it on the plan, used to be where the slipper baths used to be. So it has high-level windows, and we think this could be fantastic new space for the library with high-level light pouring into this space. And the space is accessed by this amazing staircase, which again, most people who use the building don't have the opportunity to use or are unaware of. So being able to bring this incredible new staircase and this space on the first floor, making it accessible to more people, will make sure that the library is really well housed within this building. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, we want to create new space within the building so that we can create this amazing new destination. And how we have done that is we have re-looked at where the old pool tank was. So we are removing the old pool tank and creating an incredible new space in the lower ground floor, and therefore making the lower ground floor a whole floor that can be dedicated to fitness and health and well-being. This gives us fantastic new opportunities to really create new changing facilities, new flexible studio spaces for fitness classes, as well as treatment rooms, as well as the climbing centres, club space, and really creating a new hub at the lower ground floor within the building. Next slide, please. And these are just some images of how that fitness suite and the fitness studios with the new changing facilities could really work on this new lower ground floor. And all together, we think that the building will deliver all the aspirations that we have set and that the community has asked for this project. Handing back to Councillor Swaddle.
Thank you very much, Catty. Very, very helpful. I just wanted to talk briefly, sorry, before we go to the questions, and nice to see there are some questions coming in, so please do submit. Over the coming months, we will continue our engagement as we work up the designs in more detail. At this stage, clearly, these are just the initial thoughts as to how we can put these things together. These are not detailed plans. What we now need to do is get some detailed stakeholder engagement to help us refine these plans and turn them into detailed plans. And that process will start through February and go right through until early summer. These will be community-based design workshops, and everybody that's registered for today will be invited and told how they can participate in those. But we'll also be reaching out to the clubs and other groups that use the facilities, both the library and the leisure centre, to make sure that the voices of all of the people who use the services are heard, so that we can design something that suits as many people as possible's needs. Now, I would like to say everyone's needs, but that's just not necessarily possible because some people's needs conflict. So there will be choices to be made, and some of that's already been outlined in some of the work that Catty and the survey have done during this process. So while we will endeavour to try and keep as many people as happy as possible, our priority will be the servicing of local residents who live in the area immediately around the leisure centre. So in other words, our immediate users. That's not to mean that we don't respect everybody else's views, and we want to capture as many of those users as possible, but it is vital that we hear from and represent locally the needs of the local community, both in terms of the leisure facilities and also the library. That will then take us through this summer, and then if we go on to the next slide, please. I know one of the big questions everyone wants to know is when are we going to start the work? Well, the plan is to then turn these initial thoughts, which we've been talking to the planners to, into more detailed plans for a planning submission mid this year. That will allow us through this period to start contracting with contractors, and that will then allow us to then start on site sometime during 2023, at the back end of 23. And then the leisure centre will close. It is a major refurbishment. This is not, as someone told me earlier, a lick of paint. This is a significant piece of work and will unfortunately require the facility to be closed while that work is done. And while it's impossible to be accurate at this stage as to how long that might be, I know people are concerned and want to have a view on that. It is likely to be in the order of magnitude of a year and a half. It might be slightly longer, it might be slightly less, and that's dependent upon the actual final designs and therefore the approach that's being taken by the constructors, etc. But that will then allow us to then reopen the centre in its new format sometime in 2025. As I say, these are not detailed plans. Do not write this in your diary as to the time you're going to come and visit. This is about giving you some indication. What we will do, as we have promised, is keep everybody up to date right through this process. And please do, if you have registered for today and found the information useful as we go into the questions, please encourage all your neighbours and friends and other users to register so that we can keep as many people as possible engaged with the process and hear their views, but also more importantly, let them know exactly what's going on throughout the process. We have had quite a few questions in, and I'm going to some of them are quite detailed questions about exactly how big is X or Y. We can generally give you an indication of that, but not a guarantee of a specific size. So perhaps if we could address a couple of those questions first. Who's best placed to answer that? We've got one about the sports hall height and one also around the swimming pool size. And I know broadly the answer is to do with Sport England recommendations, but
right, would you like me to take those?
Yes,
Councillor
if you could come in on that one, that'd be great.
So in terms of the sports hall height and dimensions, we are taking Sports England guidelines, as Councillor Swaddle said, to ensure that we are meeting those, and that's why the sports hall is remaining where it is. In terms of the swimming pool, again, we're looking at Sports England guidelines for that in terms of length and width, and we're looking at lots of different options for the swimming pool currently, so that is not set or decided. I think it's worth mentioning the fact that we are introducing a new learner stroke hydro pool, which will be a fantastic new facility within the building as well.
Great. And I'm just publishing a couple of questions that have answered there. So now we've also got a question yes, so there's a question here about the main pool originally shown under the sports hall. The plan shows that where the pool will be where it is currently. Early refurb design suggesting the pool would be uniformly deep. This would make the pool useless for scuba training. What are the latest design intentions for the pool? And there's a couple of questions around scuba there. I'm going to ask at the same time. The other one was around the location of the scuba club, which is currently almost subterranean within the building, as I was shown around when I last visited. Are you able to address some of those, Catty?
Sure. So in terms of the club rooms, I think there were some questions about that. We will be engaging at the stakeholder meetings to really try and understand in more detail what is required by the various clubs and how we can facilitate that, both operationally and functionally, how the rooms need to be designed and how maybe they can be shared. So we will be looking into that to make sure that we hopefully can deliver what is needed. Sorry, what was the first part of the question?
It's to do with the depth of the pool and its use for scuba.
So yeah, okay, thank you. So we are, as I said, we are looking at lots of options to do with the swimming pool, to do with the new tank or old tank, relining tanks, and that will obviously impact on depth and so on. So that is all, again, it's not something that's set or decided. We're looking into all those options.
So I think for both the scuba club and I can also see the running club asking similar questions about facilities. There's no within the diagrams that you've seen today, the detail of those at that level just isn't there. It's not, we haven't gone into that detail. That's very much where this next phase of consultation and engagement is to make sure we fully understand what the needs of different clubs and societies and users and tenants of the building are. It's absolutely our intention to retain those users and in fact, if anything, to try and enhance the facilities for those clubs and societies. They are, after all, sort of the lifeblood of some of the users. Now, that is where we will want your engagement and we will look forward to hearing from you, and we want to look at how we can use those spaces well. So, for example, what storage facilities are needed? How do you need to access? When do you need to access? How is the equipment used, etc. And that will all help us to design a great facility. So I've addressed a couple of the questions on scuba and that. There is a question asking why does the library need to be incorporated into the leisure centre and what will be done with the existing library? Well, the existing library is actually just a leased facility, so that will just will end in due course, and that will then return to the landlord, so it's not a council building. The return of a substantive library to Marylebone in a permanent format is something the council's long been committed to, and this is part of the delivery of that promise. And one of the things that we wanted to do through this project was make better use of the Seymour Leisure Centre. There's a lot of dead space within it, but also to bring together a number of services that are complementary. So, for example, the children's library, the soft play, facilities for parents to be able to get support from the council, all fit great together within the single facility. So it's not a question of it being a library or a leisure centre, it's a community asset that is being used across a whole range of services. Let's try and go down through these questions. We've heard that you're so there's a question here from Eric, thank you Eric, around whether there will be a new floor. I'm not sure if you mean the mezzanine floor, which was part of an earlier design concept, but unfortunately that option is just not available for a number of reasons. One, Historic England are against the idea and they have a very significant say. But the other actually is actually to do with the size of the sports facilities that would be provided if that was put in, which wouldn't meet the Sport England requirements for the size of the sports hall facility, and therefore also unfortunately would prevent it from being useful. There were some earlier talks around also potentially putting additional floors on the substantive roof area, but at the moment the plan allows for enough growth in space by just better use of the space that is there rather than having to substantially build on top of the building, which also might present planning issues that we've not yet will not have yet addressed. When's the planning submission intended? That would be intended for mid this year once the more detailed works have been done. Why was the pool not enlarged like it was done at Swiss Cottage and Moberly? Well, I think actually you've sort of answered the question there, because there are fantastic facilities at Swiss Cottage and Moberly, and we can't, it's just not possible to have a significant, well, a very large swimming pool facility in every location. So what we've got is a mixed use here, and so there is a balance between different services. Regarding the budgeting, manpower, etc., who will be responsible for that? Bearing in mind, maintenance cleanliness is not apparently a hallmark of the service. Well, it absolutely is part of the council's services and council's facilities, and many our leisure centres generally are of a good quality and have clean facilities. If there are specifics, please do let the team know. And obviously, as we're building and refurbishing, hopefully the facilities will remain in good condition for many years. Certainly, if you look at other facilities, that's certainly the case. Is it continuing to use it for events, which can be disruptive to residents that live close to the centre? Well, it's certainly the intention that the facility would still be used for a wide range of services, including events, and there's certainly community spaces are planned within that for things like hiring for children's parties, etc. Any larger scale events obviously come under our general planning and licensing rules, and so I don't think there's any specific issues, but clearly it's something we can, as the centre moves forward, we can look to manage with the community. The depth of the swimming pool, that's as I say, did answer that earlier, that we do not yet have an exact depth for the swimming pool. That's the piece that we're now working on as we move forward into detailed plans. Eric, I'm sorry you don't feel I haven't answered your question. I'm not sure which question you didn't think I answered, but please feel free to email me and I'll try and address that more specifically with you directly. My email address is pswaddle@westminster.gov.uk, but if you reply to any of the communication that's come out around this event, I can pick that up. Another question around swimming pool size. As I say, the exact size of the swimming pool I can't determine that at this moment, but it is the plan to try and enhance the facility that there is within the leisure centre. When are plans and documents going to be available, and why they're not available before this meeting? Well, this presentation was given to you all live now, and is going to be made available as a recording, so people will be able to review it and come back and have any comments that they like. The sports hall height, again, I don't have the exact height, but the point is to allow it to be able to be a facility that is up to Sport England standards, and that's part of the work we're doing with them. Someone was asking about downgrading to a specific size of sports hall. There's no specific size. This is an indicative design. That we don't have those details of exactly the size of the different facilities. That's the phase that we're moving into now. But as I say, we're working very closely with Sport England to ensure that all of the facilities are suitable for competitive use. You seem to be driving more of this multi-use facility to community and not to fitness. No, there's a really significant fitness element to this. There'll be a massive fitness studio. There's a lot of space dedicated to that, and there's a lot of space gained through the refurbishment that will be available. In terms of Howard, I can't answer it. Whether it's I don't think it's international standards of Sport England. I believe it will be club level or similar. But we will go into that when we're talking to the clubs and societies involved with this facility. No, Carol's asking a question around the first floor being on top of the sports hall. No, the first floor is not on top of the sports hall. there is already a first floor all the way around the building, and it's that is being used for the facilities that are shown on the first floor. So the void on the first floor, which is above the sports hall, remains and will be very significant. And I know your question is regarding badminton, and yes, that's one of the reasons that the mezzanine, for example, didn't work, was the ability to have the right heights for badminton. Someone's saying that it looks like the library is compromising the sports facilities. It's not. It's definitely a complementary use, and there's an awful lot of space that's being freed up during this by removing old plant equipment and dead spaces within the building, and you're better utilising them. Someone's asking, why do we think fitness rooms in the basement will be attractive? It's hardly the norm. Well, actually, there are lots of gym facilities that are below ground floor level, and it will be an attractive facility. And it is, we will be making sure that it's good use of the space. Someone's asking about how long the pool's likely to be closed for. The centre as a whole will be closed for circa 1.5 years. So it's both the pool, the whole facility. It's not going to be done in parts. It will have to require complete closure. Someone's saying we're desperately short of swimming pools in central London. As a council, we provide more swimming pools than any other local authority in central London, and we will continue to do so. But we're not about to build significantly larger pools at this stage. Howard is asking if I can ask. Howard, I'm sorry if I haven't addressed your question. I've tried to address people's questions. Again, if you would just drop us a line at the end of this, we'll make sure that whatever bits that I've missed, I can try and address. Are council services and offices going to be taking up space in the Seymour Leisure Centre? No, we're not putting any additional corporate facilities or etc. in. There will obviously, of course, be some space for the centre operatives and staff, but there is no plan to move any other services into there. Someone else asking about facilities closing. I think I've addressed that for Anne. Someone's asking if this proposal will be sent to us. Yes, everyone will be sent a link to the recording of this. Everyone will be sent further details of the further consultations. And yes, some of this information will be displayed in the Leisure Centre and the library so that other people who have not yet joined this mailing list will get further information. I'm going to say there are a lot of questions about swimming, and absolutely we are very keen to have good swimming facilities here. We cannot, and we'll be very clear and very upfront, we cannot provide swimming facilities at all of our leisure centres to the level that some of our swimming users would like. I know that's disappointing, but we have to balance the various users, and there are other swimming facilities. It is unfortunate we just can't keep everybody happy all of the time. So there are compromises that we have to do. I'd rather be upfront about that. In terms of someone asking about if we will, Tusno was asking a question about the library and there being a facility right through. Yes, we intend to keep a facility open right through. The exact details of whether that would be in the current facility or an alternative, I don't know if Councillor Barnes is able to answer.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, the intention is to keep the facility where it is at the moment. The only issue would be if for whatever reason that building faces development. It was picked up initially as a fairly short lease, but the intention is to keep it there unless there's anything else that happens.
And someone's suggesting that we need a 25-metre 8-lane pool. I'm afraid we're not going to be providing a 25-metre 8-lane pool. Someone's saying the pool will be the same size, will be at least the same size as it currently is. Yes, I believe it would be about the same size. I think that's rough. Is that Catty? Am I right in that?
So yes, we are looking at different lengths of pool. Obviously, currently the pool is not Sports England compliant in terms of length. So we're looking at the length and the width and the depth. So that's all being looked at within the space to make sure that the pool is the best it can be and deliver for as many people as it can.
Someone's suggesting that we find another building for all these community uses, as it sounds like a big mashup. Well, there aren't a lot of other facilities within the area to utilise. What we're doing is making sure that we use the best use of space within the building that we have got, and make sure that that is maximised, so that we provide a great facility for as many residents as possible. That's our intention, and that's what we will work with the community and to deliver. Someone's saying, why are we still looking at providing a cafe? We're looking at providing a cafe because many people would like to see a cafe. It was an important part of the facilities that they wanted. It's not something that everybody will use. Nobody will necessarily use all of the facilities, but it is about providing a mix of facilities for all of our different users. Will sharing space mean a reduction in the number of fitness classes? No, if anything, it'll probably see an uplift because we're actually looking at flexible spaces which can be used for classes sometimes when they're used else times as other facilities, but also a significant improvement in the studio and fitness spaces generally. Someone's saying about the scuba. Absolutely, we are intending to try and provide facilities for the scuba club, and we want to talk to you about exactly what to provide and how best to provide it. So John from the scuba club, please be rest assured that we will very much want to retain your use of the facilities. As you say, it's been there for 69 years, so I'd rather not break the run. I've tried to address as many of the questions as we possibly can. If there are questions, there will be opportunities through the further consultation, and that we will welcome all participants to get involved in those community design elements. So thank you for joining this evening. We will have another one of these sessions later in the year, and we'll keep you up to date. We're also going to be running this again for anybody who missed it with a few other groups. So we will publicise that. So if you didn't manage to join this, you can join that second session, but it will be available as a recording as well. So thank you all, and hopefully we've kept you informed, and we will keep you informed as we move forward further into the project. Thank you.